The House will come to order. Pledge of Allegiance today is by Anna Cole, Olivia Korn, Sophia Knoll. They're from the Girls Athletic Leadership Schools in Denver, Colorado, and they are guests of Representative Hansen.
Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Representatives Arndt, Becker J. J. Becker.
Excused.
Becker K. Beckman. Beckman.
Excused.
Benavides. Bridges. Buck. Buckner. Buckner.
Excused.
Garver. Catlin, excused. Coleman. Covarrubias. Danielson. Escar. Everett.
Excused.
Exum.
I'm too easy, right? I am too.
Foot.
I'm too soft. Start. It is absent. Has he given it?
Foot.
They're all thinking.
Excused.
Garnett. Janal. Gray. Gray. Representative Foote is present.
Excused.
Hamner. Hanson. Herod. Herod.
Excused.
Putin. Representative Gray is present. Putin. Representative Buckner is present.
Yeah, the JVC was not running a competing.
Excused.
Humphrey. Jackson. Kennedy. Kraft Tharp. Landgraf. Lawrence. Lee. Leonard. Lewis. Liston. Lontine. Lundeen. McKean. McLaughlin. Melton. Michelson Janae. Neville. Pabone. Pabone.
Not my day to watch.
Excused.
Pedersen. Pedersen. Representative Jay Becker is present.
Excused.
Rankin. Ransom. Ryer. Ryer. Roberts. Rosenthal. Sane. Salazar. Sandridge. Sias. Singer. Representative Beckman is present.
Excused.
Thurlow. Valdez. Van Winkle. Weissman. Willett. Williams. Wilson. Winkler. Representative Hooten is present. Winter. Winter.
Excused.
Wist. Wist.
Excused.
Young. Madam Speaker.
Here.
Yes or no? I want to make. Oh yeah, what do we say?
Representative Harrod is present.
How do we say?
All those in favor, say aye. Opposed?
Maybe.
We'll do that. Opposed?
It doesn't.
Representative Pabone is present.
It doesn't matter if we say yes or no. Yeah, Maryland's gonna come find us.
Yeah,
The Rock is racist. I love it.
Maryland is a lot.
Representative Wist is present.
I feel that. I see the resemblance.
Okay, so I have Catlin, Everett, Pedersen, Singer, and Winter.
Representative Pedersen is present.
With 61 present and 4 excused, we do have a quorum. Representative Coleman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the reading of the Journal of Tuesday, April 17, 2018 be dispensed with and approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
All right, members, you have heard the motion. Everybody in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying no. That motion clearly passes. Further, any announcements or introductions? I do see that we have a special guest on the floor this morning, former Speaker of the House, Mark Ferrandino. Good to see you. We also have some students that were in the gallery that are leaving from the University of Colorado. Thanks for joining us today. Announcements and introductions. Representative Michelson-Janae.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'm requesting a moment of personal privilege.
Members, there has been a request for a moment of personal privilege. May we please have your attention? Representative Michelson-Janae.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Members, yesterday in Israel, a siren went off for exactly 1 minute, and all traffic, all activity, all business came to a standstill. It is the traditional method for ringing in Yom HaZikaron, also known as Israeli Day of Remembrance. And it is the day that we remember all of our fallen who have served and who have died in terrorist attacks. And Israel has this incredible way of handling both sorrow and celebration, as tonight we ring in Yom HaAtzmaut, Israeli Independence Day. So we go from a moment of deep sorrow to a moment of deep joy. In 1972, right outside of Tel Aviv, in a small town known as Kfar Saba, it was pretty much desert. A little girl was born, the 13th generation of her family to be born in Israel, and that was me. And most of my family is in Israel. I spend many days looking at the news and wondering who's where, what's what, what's up. And I left Israel a handful of months before the Yom Kippur War. Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the year for the Jewish people. And in 1973, Israel came under attack from its neighbors, and on that day, the entire country was in prayer when the attack came. I called my mom this morning and I asked her, what were you thinking having recently come back to America, because she was American, from Israel, and this war was happening. And she had a different response than I would have expected. She felt nervous every Yom Kippur because the entire nation was in prayer. And I don't know if it resonates to you how when, as a Jewish person in America, where you're such a small percent of the population, at 2% of the population, when you go to Israel and everybody practices your faith, it's mind-blowing, where everything you need for your faith is available at your hands, where my name, Daphna, is as common as the name Amy or Michelle here in America. I am a very proud American, a natural-born citizen of this country. I have the birth certificate to prove it. But I am also very proud of my Israeli heritage. And today, as my family moves from mourning to celebration, I stand with them. I do my service to Israel as a board member of an organization that was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize for equal treatment of all in a war-torn nation. The hospital is Hadassah Hospital. If you ever go, please visit. I know how complicated Israel and the Middle East are. And today, I offer humbly my prayer for peace. Thank you for the moment.
Thank you, Representative Michelson Janae. Further announcements or introductions? Representative Lewis.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Speaker. I too would like to ask for a moment of personal privilege. I've never done this, but I'm doing it this morning.
Moment of personal privilege is granted. Members, can we please have your attention?
Thank you, ma'am. I don't know if you knew about it, but a lot of my district is on fire, and I want to talk about that just for a minute. And I want your attention. We have a picture, and I don't know if you can see it very good. It was taken at nighttime. The picture is actually from Oklahoma, the chain ranch. People are being evacuated. 500,000 acres have burned in Oklahoma and Texas, and that's 500,000 acres. They can't get ahead of the fire. But in our district, Representative Ryer is standing here with me because there were fires that came out of El Paso County, went across to Crowley County and Otero County. I have 2 fires west of me in Los Animas County. There was a huge fire last night in Baca County between Walsh and Two Buttes. I don't know that that one has been contained at all. And then in Lincoln County. So in Lincoln County, I had an aunt and a cousin that were evacuated. In Crowley County, my son went up to help his father-in-law and mother-in-law to fight fire because it was headed straight towards them. I had a nephew moving cattle last night in the middle of the night. They don't know the extent of damage. Now you have to realize this all has come after the big blizzard of last weekend. So this is Colorado. People out on the Eastern Plains are very tough, and they wouldn't be still out there if they weren't. But a lot of people lost cattle up in Representative Becker, Jay Becker's district last year around Yuma that were calving. And so this morning I'm just asking for your time, and I would like just a moment of silence because tomorrow is another red flag warning day. My area is in the bullseye. And we're watching for fire. We're paying attention because when those down power lines go and we get 80 to 100 mile an hour winds at Burlington, they recorded one at 105. Down my area was 78, 80 mile an hour winds. They will take power lines down and then it creates fire. And it can be in very rural areas. Takes people with really big backbone to take a grader and go through the fire to get to the back side to create a fire break and stop the fire. We were thankful the wind shifted from the west to the north and kind of blew back on the fire and has held those. I've talked to the county commissioners in several places this morning, and we're very thankful. So if you just give me a moment of silence, let's pray for those rural firefighters and especially those people out on the land, but especially pray for rain that is coming this weekend. So if I'll just have a moment of your time to pray to our good Lord. Thank you.
Yes, a moment of silence is granted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lewis. Representative Ryer.
Yes, I would like to add to that. Pueblo also had a huge one last night near Avondale, just east. 5 houses lost on Baxter Road, and then it headed east out across the grass. We must understand that when that grass burns, there's nothing for those cattle to eat. So that's extra expense for the ranchers to buy the feed they need to keep their cows and calves, the one that make it through the fire. I touched base with my sheriff this morning, and he thinks they have the ones in Otero County under control, but they are calling in state fire departments. They're calling in the big guns because our little rural fire departments, who are all volunteers, ranchers and the like themselves, they need help getting these fires out because it is a huge deal. And it can happen from a cigarette thrown out of a car window for all you smokers out there. Thank you.
Further announcements and introductions. Representative Liston and Representative Liston.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, in that same vein, needless to say, there are a multitude of wildfires that are going on throughout eastern Colorado. It's afflicted our county, El Paso County. as well. So it's all over. This is going to be a tremendous wildfire season, unfortunately, and maybe you'll be hearing more about that, of ways to possibly help, especially our rural fire departments and so forth. And one other thing, Madam Speaker, if I may.
Representative Wilson.
I too want to, in reference to Representative Michelson-Janae's commemoration of the founding of Israel, Israel should know, and we should all know, that Israel has no stronger ally than the United States. We were there, the United States was there and stood by the people of Israel in 1948 when they were created. Israel probably would not have been created had it not been for the United States of America. I was a college student in 1973 when the Yom Kippur War occurred, and Israel may not have survived if President Richard Nixon had not stood by Israel and gave aid and support and military aid to Israel. And today, under the current administration, Israel has no stronger ally than the United States today. So thank you.
Further announcements or introductions? Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This Monday is the Veterans Caucus. It will be at noon across the street in the large conference room, and it is about mental health and how we use our veterans courts.
Further announcements and introductions? Representative Carver.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, if you would join me in welcoming the 5th and 6th graders from Skyway and Broadmoor Elementary School here to learn about how their state government works. So if you would give them a welcome.
Thank you, and welcome to the Capitol. Representative Michelson-Janae.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have two groups to welcome. First, I would like to welcome the Clyde Miller P8 Group A School. Where are you, Clyde Miller School? Oh, they were here from our area, and they came to learn about the government. Also here to learn about the government today are the plumbing, heating, and cooling contractors of Colorado, and they're over there in the corner. If you could welcome them. Their mission is dedicated to the advancement and education of plumbing, HVACR, mechanical industry for the health, safety, and comfort of society and the protection of the environment. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for being here today.
Representative Wilson and Representative Arndt.
Colleagues, listen up. We need your attention here. Do it, Jim.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Tomorrow is the last Sportsman's.
Members, can we please have your attention? Representative Arndt and Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Tomorrow is the last Sportsman's Caucus Day at the Capitol. We'll be having the cookout out on the East Capitol lawn. For legislators, there will be the opportunity to have wild game sausages and elk burgers as well as the regular hot dogs. So that will be out on the east side of the Capitol steps at 11:30. We will be having a reception tomorrow evening, and we're going to work diligently with the majority leader so we can either start later or finish earlier, because the reception at Stoney's is from 5 to 7. So we've got to work that out. So don't put any pressure on leadership, but put pressure on leadership for that, okay?
That's right.
Thank you.
A lot of people are coming, and they'd love to meet you and see you. So, and I've, while I have the mic,
Representative.
thank you. I'll just stay here because there's two groups from CSU I'd like to welcome today. The Collegiate Farm Bureau is here, over there on the floor. If you could say hi. Thanks for coming. And we also have the state classified employees from Colorado State. Their representatives are here up in the gallery. Thanks for coming.
Further announcements and introductions. And Representative Arndt, can you come up here for a minute? But Representative Kraft-Tharp. Representative Arndt. Representative Kraft-Tharp.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to welcome the City of Westminster folks, the city staff who are here today to visit us, and they will be popping in probably in the middle of our work this morning and probably sitting right over there. So wherever they are, welcome.
Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I have three very important introductions for you this morning. The first is there is a group of 6th and 7th graders from Maury Middle School sitting on the floor today. We talked about how a bill can become a law, and the bill we discussed is whether or not 13-year-olds should be able to drive. And it was a great way of explaining how a bill goes through this process. So if you guys could please stand, if we could give them a round of applause. And one of the things that I do for my constituents is I ask if they ever want to come down and sit on the floor or shadow me for a day to have a better understanding of how the People's House works, that opportunity is always open. And our House District 2 chair is here today. And thank you, Ruth, so much for being here and for following the process and being you're already a super active member of our community, but thanks for shadowing today. And members, Speaker of the House, Mark Ferrandino, is in the house. Oh, really? Where was I? Oh, well, the Speaker's here. Did you guys know the Speaker's here? Ferrandino's here. All right.
That's because we're just so excited to see you, Speaker Ferrandino. Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, we have three superintendents here from the San Luis Valley, from Moffett School District in the corner over here, standing up, and also from Alamosa School District. Let's give them a big welcome. Also, members, tomorrow is the last Health Caucus meeting, which will happen tomorrow morning at 7:30 to 8:30 in HCR 106. Hope to see you there. Thank you.
All right, Representative Singer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Baby Watch 2018 update. Thank you all for your well wishes. Mom did make it home yesterday. Baby is still cooking, which is the good news. Mom has been put on light bed rest, which should be totally easy with a 2-year-old at home. But thank you all for your well wishes. The due date has been moved up, though, from May 15th to potentially May 1st, so I may need to ask for permission to be excused, but we'll work that out later.
Oh, that's great news. Thank you, Representative Singer. And Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, can I have your attention for a moment? Thank you, members. You have received an email, and it might look like it came from you, but it's actually from the Investigations Law Group, who is soliciting. They will be here for a 7:30 meeting on May 3rd, and you'll get more information about that. But they are available to any and all members, House and Senate, at that meeting who want to ask questions about their recommendations around the workplace harassment study. So the Executive Committee, Speaker Duran, Minority Leader Neville, myself, and the 3 members from the Senate wanted to make their report and make them available to you all personally and directly so you guys can ask questions. There's in that email is a link for you to submit questions anonymously if you would like to. So please be aware of that meeting and your opportunity to engage in the workplace harassment recommendations that may come forward.
And so, members, we encourage everybody to be able to attend that meeting to ask any questions that you have about future policy changes, future rule changes, and so forth. Further announcements or introductions? Further announcements or introductions? All right, with that, we will go to third reading of bills. Final passage. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1273.
House Bill 1273, Representative Salazar and Escar, also Senator Merrifield, concerning protection for Colorado residents from federal government overreach based on a person's status.
Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1273 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of House Bill 1273 on third reading and final passage. Representative Escar and Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We request permission to offer a third reading amendment.
Oh, okay. That was properly asked for. Would you like to tell us why?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. We are asking for a non-substantive third reading amendment, something that we had been planning for months. We were hoping to get it on first reading in committee, and unfortunately we weren't able to because the members of the family weren't present at the time. But the third reading amendment is to change the name of the bill to the Minoru Yasui Freedom Defense Act. As we know, Minoru Yasui was a Japanese-American attorney here in Colorado who fought against Japanese internment. He stood shoulder to shoulder with Ralph Carr in fighting the U.S. government's attempts to intern Japanese Americans, as well as fighting the curfews that were imposed upon Japanese Americans. He himself was arrested and was charged for violating curfew. He later won that case. And so he is a precedent-setting historical figure in Colorado and American history. So we're looking to honor him. Before anybody comes up here and asks, yes, we did speak with his family, just as much as we did Ralph Carr last year. But we met with his family, including his niece and his daughters, and they said that they would be absolutely honored to have this bill named after him.
All right, the question before us is permission to offer a third reading amendment. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote.
Stand there. Yeah, I know.
Representative McLaughlin and Representative Breyer. Please close the machine. With 38 yes votes, 24 no votes, and 3 excused, permission to offer a third reading amendment is granted. Representative Escar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move Amendment L002.
All right, it's properly moved. And can we get it displayed? Thank you. All right, Representative Salazar.
Good amendment. Vote yes. There's no need to explain it again.
All right, with that, Mr. Randall, please open the machine. Members, please proceed to vote. Representative Benavides. Please close the machine. With 37 yes votes, 25 no votes, and 3 excused, Amendment L002 is adopted. Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1273 as on third reading and final passage as amended.
Question before us is passage of House Bill 1273 as amended on third reading and final passage. Mr. Randall, please open the machine. Members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 34 yes votes, 28 no votes, and 3 excused, House Bill 1273 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1344.
House Bill 1344, Representatives Weissman and Syosel, Senators Corman and Moreno, concerning relief from collateral consequences of criminal actions.
Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1344 on third reading and final passage.
All right, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1344 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 62 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 3 excused, House Bill 1344 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1354.
House Bill 1354, Representatives McKean and Senator Zenzinger, concerning a requirement that written warranties for power sport vehicles be honored.
Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1354 on third reading and final passage.
Question before us is a passage of House Bill 1354 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 62 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 3 excused, House Bill 1354 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to lay over House Bill 1281 one day till Thursday, April 19th.
All right, seeing no objection, House Bill 1281 will be laid over. All right, that takes us to Senate Bill 33. Mr. Randall, please read the title.
Senate Bill 33 by Senator Sonnenberg, also Representatives Martin Becker J, concerning the continuation of the annual feeding operation permit program of the Department of Public Health and Environment in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 33 on third reading and final passage.
Question before us is passage of Senate Bill 33 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Humphrey. Please close the machine. With 48 yes votes, 14 no votes, and 3 excused, Senate Bill 33 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Ms. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 108.
Senate Bill 108 by Senator Crowder and Quorum, also Representatives Arndt and Singer, concerning the issuance of identification documents under the Colorado and Community Safety Act to persons who are not lawfully present in the United States in connection therewith making an appropriation.
All right, Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 108 on third reading and final passage.
Question before us is passage of Senate Bill 108. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 38 yes votes, 24 no votes, and 3 excuse, Senate Bill 108 is passed. Co-sponsors. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Ms. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 132.
Senate Bill 132 by Senator Smallwood, also Representative Kennedy, concerning a waiver of federal law to permit issuance carries to our catastrophic health plans to the individual residing in Colorado in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 132 on third reading and final passage.
All right, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 132 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Lantine, Pabon, Ransom, and Young. Please close the machine. With 62 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 3 excused, Senate Bill 132 passes. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 141.
Senate Bill 141 by Senator Cord, also Representatives Wilson and Hanson, concerning voluntary contribution designations on the Colorado individual income tax return form.
Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 141 on third reading and final passage.
Question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 141 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Harrod. Please close the machine. With 53 yes votes, 9 no votes, and 3 excused, Senate Bill 141 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1371.
House Bill 1371, Representatives Escar and Becker J. L. Senators Capalas and Baumgartner. Concerning capital construction budget items, connection that was codifying the three-year period, the capital construction budget item remain available and clarifying the deadlines for the submission of capital construction budget request amendments, and budget request amendments that are related to requests for a supplemental appropriation.
System Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1371 on third reading and final passage.
Question before us is the passage of House Bill 1371 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Randall, please open the machine. Members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 61 yes votes, 1 no vote, and 3 excused, House Bill 1371 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Ms. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1372.
House Bill 1372, Representatives Escar and Becker J. L. Senator Capalas, concerning exemption of the Regional Center Depreciation Account of the Capital Construction Fund of the Destination Cash Fund for purposes of the requirements under the Automatic Cash Fund funding mechanism for payment of future costs attributed to certain of the state's capital assets.
Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1372 on third reading and final passage.
Question before us is the passage of House Bill 1372 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Landgraf, Representative Benavides. Please close the machine. With 61 yes votes, 1 no vote, and 3 excused, House Bill 1372 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1391.
House Bill 1391, Representatives Duran and Winter, Senators Martinez and Minnick concur concerning the prevention of sexual misconduct on higher education campuses.
Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1391 on third reading and final passage.
Question before us is the passage of House Bill 1391 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 34 yes votes, 28 no votes, and 2 excused. Actually, that happened all during the vote. So it was 3 excused. House Bill 1391 is passed. Co-sponsors. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. All right. That takes us to general orders, second reading of bills. Representative Gray. All right, members, you have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, Representative Gray will take the chair.
Will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there is a request for reading a bill at length. Committee amendments will not be read unless requested, as they are printed in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and on your iPads and not read unless requested. Bills will be laid over upon the motion of the majority leader, and the coat rule is relaxed. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1342.
House Bill 1342, Representative Melton. Concerning a requirement that common interest community created in Colorado before July 1st, 1992, complying with the provisions of the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act that allows the majority of the unit owners of common interest community to veto a budget proposed by the Executive Board of the Common Interest Community.
Mr. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1342, 2 bills.
Seeing no objection, House Bill 1342 will be laid over by 2 bills. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1314.
House Bill 1314 by Representatives Janal and Lawrence, also Senator Cook, concerning prohibiting the use of unmanned aircraft systems to obstruct public safety operations.
Representative Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1314 and the Judiciary Committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee amended 2 things in the bill. They actually removed a section of language that was in another place in statute and added knowingly to the language. And with that, I would ask for an aye on the committee report.
Is there any further discussion on the committee report?
Yes. So you need to pass this first. Oh, we need to pass that first? Even though it says strike below? It says strike below.
Oh, does it amend?
Please hold.
That amends the Judiciary report.
Asking again, is there any further discussion or potential substantive action relating to the committee report?
Substitute amendment.
Representative Janal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move a substitute amendment to the Judiciary report, and it's amendment L003 and ask that it be displayed.
The amendment has been moved and is displayed. Representative Janal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment is a strike below, and what its intent is to insert existing obstruction statutes rather than creating a new one. And this was done in response to some of the things that we heard in the Judiciary Committee, where members questioned the need for an entirely new statute rather than including these provisions in the existing statute. So it simplifies matters and adequately addresses the problem that we're seeking to solve. And it should be noted that mens rea standardly is a standard of knowingly is included in the existing statute and would apply here as well. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on L003? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L003. All those in favor say aye.
Okay.
Anyone?
Aye.
Thank you. All those opposed, no. L003 is adopted. Members, because we have struck the committee report, we no longer need to speak to the committee report. The amendment will replace that, and we are to the bill. Representative Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this is an important bill that recognizes the fact that we have a growing drone use in Colorado, and we want to make sure that they're not interfering or obstructing emergency services. As some of our members took a moment of personal privilege earlier to talk about the fires that are raging in their areas, we want to make sure that nothing obstructs those air flight missions that are dropping slurry to help put those fires out. And this is a significant step to make sure that drone use by recreational users or professional users does not interfere with firefighting or emergency rescue operations. And I would ask for an aye vote on this.
Any further discussion on House Bill 1314? Representative Wiss, Mr. Assistant Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, we had a very thorough discussion of this bill in the Judiciary Committee. I want to thank the sponsors for working through a thoughtful amendment. I think we've kept the safe harbor provisions that provide needed guidance, but also recognizing the language that existed in current statute and making sure that we're being consistent in the way that we apply the law to obstruction fact patterns. So again, my thanks to the sponsors, and I urge a yes vote on the bill.
Representative Carver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to the sponsors for bringing this bill and going through our robust Judiciary Committee discussion. The importance of this bill, and just to follow up on what Rep. Wiss said, is that it provides clarity for both law enforcement first responders as well as the drone operators on what is and is not allowed. And this is so important to provide for this rather unique technology and situation to define in statute where that line is. And so would urge a yes vote.
Any further discussion on House Bill 1314? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1314. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 1314 is adopted. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 156 one day.
Seeing no objection, Senate Bill 156 will be laid over one day. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 68 till Monday, April 23rd.
Seeing no objection, Senate Bill 68 will be laid over until the 23rd. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 1342 will be laid over till after Senate Bill 207.
Seeing no objection, at the request of the Majority Leader, House Bill 1342 will be laid over until after Senate Bill 207. That brings us, unless I'm mistaken, to Mr. Randall. Please read the title of Senate Bill 143.
Senate Bill 143 by Senators Finberg and Quorum, also Representatives Arndt and Wilson, concerning measures to increase revenue for the Parks and Wildlife Division in connection therewith setting certain hunting, fishing, parks, and recreation fees.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm waiting on my co-sponsor to arrive.
Aw.
I didn't see her there.
Can't see me.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 18141. There is no committee report.
Would you like to move Senate Bill 18143? Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, this has been a 2-year effort. This time we've got it right. We've got almost a full page of outdoor support, as well as many of the conservation folks that have come together on this bill. Everyone realizes that we've got over 100 dams in the state of Colorado that CPW has jurisdiction over. There's about a $43 million price tag on the maintenance of those as we stand here in this well today. The outdoorsmen of Colorado have decided that it's time that we got CPW fiscally solvent and responsible, and that's what Senate Bill 143 does. I urge an aye vote.
Representative Arndt, if you would move Senate Bill 143, there was a minor misspeak on the number, but if you can move Senate Bill 143 and continue.
I'd like to move Senate Bill 143.
Thank you.
And this is a great bill. Again, to repeat what my co-sponsor said, 2 years, 3 years in the making. It's a great bill for Colorado, and we urge an aye vote.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 143? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 143. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 143 is adopted. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 207.
Senate Bill 207 by Senator Moreno, also Representative Rankin, concerning authority for the Department of Human Services to retain amounts from certain cash funds for its indirect costs.
Representative Rankin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move Senate Bill 207. There's no committee report.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a JBC bill. We have been locked up with the departments, particularly Human Services, for several years trying to straighten out the allocation of indirect cost to the various programs they run. This bill is a piece of that. It simply makes sure that the allocations to 2 of the programs that were not being allocated are in accordance with state law and federal law. So I ask for a yes vote.
Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And colleagues, Representative Rankin has become our in-house expert on indirect costs. So I always follow his lead on these conversations and hope you do as well. Thank you.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 207? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 207. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 207 is adopted. Mr. Randall, please read the title, I believe now, to House Bill 1342.
House Bill 1342, Representative Melton, concerning a requirement that common interest community created in Colorado before July 1st, 1992 comply with the provision of the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act, and it allows the majority of union owners in common interest community to veto a budget proposed by the Executive Board of the Common Interest Community.
Representative Melton? Mr. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see Representative Melton. He's coming down. So I'm just going to delay with my beautiful radio voice until he gets down here. Oh, and he's right here.
You have some flexibility. Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1342. There are no committee reports.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, I move L001 and ask that be properly displayed.
L001 has been moved and is properly displayed to the amendment. Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there was some concern about this, that if we move the veto power for HOAs, that those that have a declaration and have maximum amounts may run into a problem in terms of having to then override the maximum amounts, and that puts them in conflict with their declarations. And so what this amendment does, excuse me, is it it exempts out those that have a declaration of a maximum amount, because then there is already an affirmative vote that takes place, and the veto is not necessary in those cases, and again, would actually be in conflict. With that, members, I would ask for an aye vote.
We appreciate your hustle, Representative Melton. Any further discussion on L001? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L001. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. L001 is adopted. To the bill, Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, House Bill 1342 really addresses a property rights issue for those that live in HOAs. A couple of years ago, we had ran a bill that, we passed a bill in this legislature that allowed for all members, whether you were pre-Kiowa or post-Kiowa, to receive your budget. That was something that was not afforded to all property owners and HOAs, especially those that were pre-Kiowa. It was required of all post-Kiowa. But with that, we did not allow for veto power of that budget. And I think that it's important that property owners have the ability to say, hey, wait a minute, board, we're not liking where you're spending the money, or we're not liking what you're doing with the money and the fees that we're paying into. And so we want to be able to veto the budget just like all post-Kiowa communities do. So all communities that are 25 years old or below 25 years old. With the amendment, though, that we just passed, there again were some concerns for the reason why that veto power wasn't extended in the first place was because it would come in conflict with some pre-existing declarations. I think with this, we've now made it so that way all people, regardless of if you're in an older community or a newer community, you have the ability to have a say in your budget and make sure that your HOA is following and your boards are following the rules, and it's not just a carte blanche, all-powerful board. With that, members, I would ask for an aye vote.
Any further discussion? Representative Westminster, Assistant Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a question for the bill sponsor. I assume that the scope, Representative Melton, just pertains to budgets, that this in no way impacts any voting with respect to authorizing litigation.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Representative Wiss, Mr. Minority Leader, exactly, or Assistant Minority Leader, exactly. This is just pertaining to the HOA's budget.
Any further discussion on House Bill 1342? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1342. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. All those opposed, no. House Bill 1342 is adopted. Mr. Randall, please read the title to Senate Bill 178.
Senate Bill 178 by Senator Smallwood, also Representative Kraft Tharp, concerning the definition of similar coverage for workers' compensation for certain operators of commercial vehicles.
Representative Kraft Tharp or Mr. Assistant Minority Leader? Mr. Assistant Minority Leader.
Majority, Mr. Chair.
Fair point.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 178, two bills. Thank you.
Seeing no objection, Senate Bill 178 will be laid over by two bills. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 177.
Senate Bill 177 by Senators Piola and Todd, also Representatives Bridges and Sias, concerning procedures with certain private schools cease operations.
Representative Sias.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 177, and there is no committee report.
To the committee report. I'm sorry, to the bill.
Mr. Chair, Senate Bill 177 allows for the surety bond that is posted by a private occupational school which goes out of business. It allows that surety bond to be used for once students are made whole for any loss that they have had with tuition or records. It allows the proceeds to be used for the administrative costs of shutting down the school. What it does is allow the surety bond to be used so that taxpayer resources do not have to be used for that function. I would urge an aye vote.
Representative Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I? Thank you. Thank you. That's much better. Much better. Thank you. Members, this bill is good for students. It's good. Jump in. It's good for the schools. This makes sure that bad actors in this space are not costing money for the good actors. We make sure that students are taken care of first, and then we have the resources that we need to make sure that all the students who used to go to these places that are getting shut down can still have access to those records, still have all the support that they need moving forward in their careers to make sure that the failure of a school doesn't impact the students who went there. So I urge an aye vote.
Any further? Representative Melton.
Good bill, vote yes.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 177? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 177. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 177 is adopted.
Good work.
Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 18003.
Senate Bill 3 by Senator Scott, also Representatives Hansen and Becker J, concerning the Colorado Energy Office.
Representative Hansen.
We're doing subs, so I'm filling in for Becker.
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would like to move for the passage of Senate Bill 18003.
To the bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Very pleased to be joining Representative Becker and bringing forward a bill that reauthorizes the Colorado Energy Office. This is a bill that does two main things. It takes out some outdated statutory language, programs that are no longer being used. We strip that out of the statute books. And we also make a few changes to the scope of the office so that it reflects an all of the above strategy across the state of Colorado, and I urge your support.
Representative Becker J.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this really is the all of the above language that we put together when we reorged the department in 2012. This is really that language coming forward, taking out things that aren't used inside of the department, but this allows them to promote all forms of energy in the state of Colorado. Plus, it adds on some energy storage in there. It adds in a few other things that I think will be beneficial. I'd ask for an aye vote.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 3? Representative Bridges. Or are you just gesticulating wildly? Thank you. Any further discussion on Senate Bill 003? Any serious discussion on Senate Bill 003?
Good bill vote yes. Thank you.
Seeing no Representative Sane, who may be taking this seriously.
I will try, Mr. Chair. Members, there are so many things about this bill. So many things. And I appreciate Representative Becker taking this back to the original intent that he created back when he was in office before. However, because this is a bureaucracy that has gone outside its boundaries before, that's why I voted no, and I will continue to vote no. Thank you.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 3? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 3. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 3 is adopted. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 178.
Senate Bill 178 by Senator Small, also Representative Kraft Tharp, concerning the definition of similar coverage for workers' compensation for certain operators of commercial vehicles.
Representative Kraft Tharp. Representative Kraft Tharp.
Thank you. So I'm asking for support. I move and asking for support and move Senate Bill 178. There is no committee report.
To the bill.
Thank you. Senate Bill 178 seeks to clarify an option that was part of Senate Bill 75 in 1992. That measure outlined that transportation drivers who are independent contractors in trucking, which are one truck operators known as owner-operators, be required to have workers' compensation coverage or an insurance policy that provided similar coverage to it. With the passage of that measure, it was assumed that occupational accident insurance met that standard for similar coverage under the law. Senate Bill 178 clarifies that assumption. I ask for your support.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 178? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 178. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 178 is adopted. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 1862.
Senate Bill 62 by Senator Moreno, also Representative Melton, concerning liability limits in snow and ice removal contracts.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 62 and the Judiciary Committee report.
To the committee report.
In the Judiciary Committee, we added a number of amendments that took out aircraft as well as some others that dealt with property. I ask for an aye vote.
Any further discussion of the Judiciary Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Committee report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm being told that I need further explanation on this bill. So I will say that what we are doing with this is we're really trying to help snow removal companies who may have a trigger that's in their contract that then makes them responsible if someone slips or falls and hurts themselves. So here's the scenario that's actually happening. A snow removal company will get into a contract with, say, a grocery store, and in their contract there's a trigger that says that at 2 feet or 2 inches of snow, that's when they're supposed to come out and plow. However, if, say, there's only 1.5 inches of snow, that they're actually not supposed to come out and will not be paid if they come out to remove that snow. Now, here's the kicker. If somebody were to slip and fall at that 1.5 inch snowfall, it is the snow removal company that is liable under the current law. What our bill does is it says that unless you're actually doing the work, you should be the ones that you should be the ones that are then liable. So if the snow removal company is not being paid to actually do this work, they shouldn't be liable for not actually doing the work that they're not being paid for. With that, members, I would ask for an aye vote.
To the sure-footed, Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I heard from a good constituent of mine who's in the snow removal business, and he called me specifically about this weeks ago, about Senate Bill 62, and he had some real concerns about it. But I have heard from a number of good sources that that this bill, that all of the parties, and especially the snow removal people, the independent contractors, have come to a good kumbaya, and they're ready to plow ahead, move ahead, plow ahead. And so this is a good bill, I believe. We don't want people slipping and sliding around. And as a result of this bill, we'll be able to get on our business and skate through our work for the rest of the year. So I would urge an aye vote on Senate Bill 62.
Is there any further discussion that doesn't involve puns? Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I think that this is a really good bill. Again, it helps our small businesses. It helps these small contractors who are going out and removing snow. And we, again, want to promote fairness when it comes to our laws and when it comes to these types of contracts. We want to make sure that these small companies aren't burdened with extra expenses and extra costs because of natural elements that are outside of their control or outside of their purview. It, again, doesn't make sense that we would expect these contractors to go out and remove snow and not be paid for it, just so that way they can avoid some type of liability lawsuit or have their insurance rates go up. And again, I would ask for an aye vote on this bill, so that way we, again, can show as a legislature that we are all about promoting small businesses. We're all about helping out the small guy in the winter storms and also keeping people safe. And I do feel like this is a snow job right now as I'm waiting for some kind of assurance that we're ready to move on with this bill.
Any further discussion from the Judiciary Committee on this particularly important piece of legislation, Mr. Assistant Minority Leader Wist?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, actually, I have some substantive things that I'd like to say about this bill. Members, this bill will prohibit contractual language from being used by private parties. It interferes in parties' ability to negotiate these contracts. I understand the policy reasons as to why parties would not want to have this contractual language, but generally it's not our place as a General Assembly to get in the middle of contractual negotiations. Now, there are certain circumstances where the Colorado Revised Statutes prohibit certain contractual provisions as being void as against public policy. And you all know that relates to things like non-competes and other things where there are compelling policy reasons. I'm not saying there aren't policy reasons why people aren't advocating for this, and I think they're doing so in good faith. But I think we need to be thinking carefully and moving very, very slowly when we're talking about prohibiting private parties from being able to negotiate contractual terms in good faith. For that reason, I urge a no vote on this bill.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I definitely understand the concerns when it comes to getting involved in private contracts. But again, when we're talking about a fairness problem, one that we're holding a company liable for not being able to actually do the job that they're supposed to do, or sorry, for doing what they're following a contract for. Again, it just says that this is a time or a moment where we as a state should intercede and make sure that these small companies aren't being held liable for work that they're not allowed to do.
Representative Carver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I voted against this bill in judiciary, and while there was certainly some challenging testimony, I mean, I certainly understand the policy reason why the snow removal companies want this legislation, but quite frankly, this is an area where you have within the private sector, and not where the government has intervened to create extensive leverage on one side versus another, but just your normal business negotiation between two private parties contracting for a service, that for the government to intervene and prohibit certain contract provisions, I just think is a step too far, and I would urge a no vote.
Is there any member of the Judiciary Committee who has not addressed the bill? Representative Benavidez.
All right, let's get in this. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yeah, I'm one of those Judiciary Committee members that voted in support of this. And I think it is true that there's language in here that does go into contractual language, but the three clauses that are in this bill apply to both parties. And the larger reason for having this, think of indemnification. If somebody brings a slip and fall claim and a contractor has to indemnify the building owner, then they bear all the costs, and that is going to push more settlements unnecessarily. But what this does is that it recognizes that the snow removal companies don't have full control of the situation. There are clauses sometimes in those in their contract to remove the snow that says you cannot start removing the snow until there's 2 inches down of snow. And so what happens, to get to 2 inches, you can have ice underneath that before they can even begin their work. So that provides some contributory negligence on behalf of the owner of the property. I had explained that I was responsible for insuring some government buildings, and one of our buildings, in front of it, the sidewalk had such a grade on the sidewalk that we were getting numerous slip and falls. Well, the contractor has no authority to change the grade on our sidewalk, and it was up to the building owner. So we made arrangements to fix that. So this ensures that everybody's at the table if a claim is brought, to ensure fairness and who's responsible. And both parties agree. There wasn't opposition from the building owners or the contractors to this. So I think if we raise this as a concern when both parties agree, you know, we're making something out of nothing. So I urge support of this bill. Thank you.
Representative Salazar.
Members, I'm sensing something here. Somewhere along the way this week, you must have all been bad. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you are being subjected to the entire Judiciary Committee coming up to the well. We can't all be as lucky as Representative Lawrence, who just got up and walked out during her bill during Judiciary. So, because apparently we are supposed to be having an entire Judiciary Committee. Oh no, brother, you asked for it. Because we're supposed to have an entire Judiciary Committee hearing happening right now, I just want to assure you that on this bill, I received real strong assurance from Representative Melton that this bill applies to man-made snow as much as natural snow. Yes, There is nothing in this bill that writes out in the contract anything about man-made snow. You're liable if it's slick one way or the other. Who else wants to come up from Judiciary?
Representative Willett. For real this time. Representative Willett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did hear the call for all judiciary to come up, and guess what? I am the sole Republican to vote in favor of this bill. And the reason is, unlike what you might have heard, I'm a big believer in keeping litigation to a minimum in our society. So I view this as a good public policy guidance bill because, face it, folks, this is just a fight between big corporations and insurance companies. And what it does, through the amendment, change the whole bill. It simply disallows a really unfair business practice of, the example was a concert venue, and they don't have a concert, so they don't have any revenue coming in. They pick up the phone and say, oh, I don't want you to clean the snow. Somebody goes out and slips and falls. They sue both the concert venue and the snow removal company. Concert venue says, oh, you have to indemnify me for all accidents. But wait a minute, you told me not to remove the snow. All this does is says, look, if you call me off or you change the terms, I can't have to indemnify you when I wasn't responsible for removing the snow. Good bill with the amendment. It'll keep litigation to a minimum, and the responsible party will be the correct responsible party. We don't need cost shifting and litigation about adhesion clauses and indemnification. We need clarity. Thank you.
Representative Lundeen.
And it may be coming to an end. I think I might be the last member of the Judiciary Committee who's going to speak. I don't know whether Rep. Roberts has had the opportunity to speak yet. And now that I've called him out by name, I think he's essentially bound to come down and defend his honor in some way. Quite frankly, opposed the bill, voted against the bill. I'm not convinced by the arguments you just heard. The reality is we're intruding in a contract. If you don't want the coercive power of government intruding in the contract, you can always elevate to the association level, which would be a possible solution that I did not hear convincing answers to when I raised those questions in committee. So if the contractors, the individual contractors, are having a hard time negotiating their contract to the terms they want to do, which I think ultimately is their responsibility and quite frankly their capacity and ability to do, you could perhaps get the Snowplowers Association or another association that is interested in this to step in and help train, encourage, and improve their industry to deal with these issues without, in fact, causing the or elevating to the need of having the state involved in this. And I do not believe it is the appropriate province of the state to be intruding into these contracts. So I urge your opposition to this bill.
All right, Representative Roberts, you're sure? You're sure? Not seeing Representative Herod, Representative Melton.
I think Representative Foote.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good bill. Vote yes.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank the members on both sides of the aisle from Judiciary because it is only House Judiciary that could drag out snow removal so eloquently. So thank you all for that, and other members, we are causing a meltdown, indeed. Members, again, this bill had no opposition. We did a lot of stakeholding on this, and in Judiciary added really vital language that brought most of this, or really all of the stakeholders in alignment to either supportive or neutral. And again, this is again a bill about fairness, and I would ask for an aye vote.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 62? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 62. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 62 is adopted. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 15.
Senate Bill 15 by Senators Gardner Hill, also Representatives Williams and Liston, concerning the Protecting Homeowners and Deployed Military Personnel Act.
Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad we can skate along to more important business. So, Mr. Chairman, I move Senate Bill 15 and the State Veterans and Military Affairs Report.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, we've heard this bill in general deals with the unlawful occupation. Living in someone else's home unlawfully, and the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee really has done good work with this, and the amendment, which Well, I'll just speak to the committee report. Yes, I want to speak to the committee report. Basically, through the good work of Representative Weissman and the rest of us, the committee report is the bill. What it does, it provides an expedited process for removing unauthorized persons from continuing to possess a residential premise while providing a court process to try and protect due process rights. In addition, the property owner begins the process by filing a verified motion and complaint with the county clerk. The court must hold a hearing on the motion as soon as practicable, but no later than 2 days after the motion is filed. The occupant must be served with notice of the motion along with a copy of the filings, or the materials must be posted in a conspicuous place, i.e. on the front door. At the hearing, the person occupying the property has a right to appear and dispute that he or she is unauthorized person, or in the court's discretion may submit a written response. The court must rule on the motion at the hearing and may issue an order on such additional terms or limitations as is determined necessary and equitable under the circumstances. And last but not least, a property owner who does not tell the truth in the motion and complaint can be guilty of perjury. If the judge does not enter the order, the property owner may still proceed with a regular eviction. That's essentially what the committee report does, and I urge and I vote on the committee report.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to echo the comments that my colleague, Representative Liston, has made, and just say that a lot of hard work was done in our committee, and I want to thank Representative Weissman for working with us to not only balance the rights of property owners, but also ensure that due process was inserted into this bill so that legitimate tenants also have a way to still have a place of living and to make sure that bad actors don't take advantage of this law. And so, again, with that, I would recommend an aye vote on the committee report.
Representative Benavides.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, I move L010 as an amendment to the committee report and ask that it be displayed.
Amendment L10 has been moved and is almost entirely displayed to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, what this amendment does is I voted for the bill and support the bill, but what the bill does, it's sort of what's been referred to as a FED light, and FED is a forcible entry and detainer, which is a standard eviction process. And so in these rare situations where somebody has come in and taken over a homeowner's home, sort of a squatter kind of issue, then this bill allows the mandatory injunction. But that's all it speaks to. The problem is that the mandatory injunction by itself does not allow the sheriff's office to go in. In a normal FED, they issue the order plus issuing a writ of restitution. It's the writ of restitution that allows the sheriffs to go in and help the owner stand by while the owner takes possession of the property. So what this does, it inserts language that besides the mandatory injunction, the judge will also issue a writ of execution, and then after that is all done, there's a place in the bill that says that the homeowner can take this mandatory injunction, and now it'll say plus the restraining order, to the sheriffs, and within 24 hours or as soon as possible, the sheriff can enforce the writ of restitution. And it referenced Section 13-40-122, which is the section that provides guidance to the Sheriff's Department on enforcing the writ of restitution. And it provides that, and in there, if you look, it says within 48 hours, but on line 14, that's where we accept that paragraph so it can be 24 hours or as soon as possible. And this is really needed to enforce the order. So I would urge a yes vote on the amendment
Representative
and the
Weissman.
bill.
Thank you, and I'll confine my remarks to L10 for now. This is essentially a cleanup amendment to the work that we did in committee to get some terminology right, to make sure that the appropriate legal instrument is issued to effect what the bill as amended is trying to do. So I support the amendment. I'll reserve comment for in a sec.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I certainly don't have any objection to this amendment here. I believe, it was explained very well by Representative Benavidez and Weissman. It just helps to actually enforce the order. So please vote yes.
Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I'm neutral on the amendment. We can certainly live with it. So please, it's okay to vote your conscience however you feel, but definitely vote for the committee report. Thank you. Thank you, Representative Benavidez.
Any further discussion on L10? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L010. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. L010 is adopted. To the committee report, Representative Weissman.
Thank you, and members, I won't repeat a lot of what Reps. Liston and Williams said, but I'll be candid, I was opposed to this bill as it came over to us from the Senate and as it came to committee. We did substantial work in committee to try to find a more appropriate way to address the problem that we've heard about. As amended by the committee report, I believe we have a much better solution to a problem that's particularly been prevalent in southern Colorado and potentially elsewhere. We are following county court rules of procedure. We are making sure that there is service of process in the usual way that there has to be in a civil action. We're providing for no docket fee so that folks who have been put out in this way as to their property can get to court without even the usual reduced county court cost. We are providing for as quick a timeline as possible for these motions to be heard, and as you heard, there is a penalty if somebody falsely swears for the purpose of commencing one of these actions. So I believe that we have an appropriate process with due process guardrails to the problem that we've heard about, and please support the committee report. Thank you.
The committee report. Representative Lundin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the bill.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're on the committee report. I apologize. My hand signals didn't get through. Representative Liston? Any further discussion on the committee report, I should ask? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the committee report as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The committee report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Lundin.
Thank you. Seems like I was just here seconds ago. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, or another way of describing that, property. This bill is fundamental to what we are as a constitutional republic. When we call upon people to serve us and protect these concepts of life, liberty, and our ability to pursue happiness, and they come home to discover that in fact somebody has intruded into their property and they can't in fact regain access and control over their own property, we are coming apart at the seams. I think this bill gets at, in a very meaningful way, a really fundamental set of principles and ideals that we should be fighting for and working for constantly in this body and in every aspect of what we do in our society. This is an effort to get at what has become an increasingly serious problem. And I am grateful for the bill sponsors for bringing this, and I hope this thing sails out of here so that we can begin to resolve some of these issues that have become so problematic in our communities. I'm sure that anyone, if they reach out to their constituents and extend into 1-2 layers into their network, they will discover a story where this has been a problem. So I urge your support of this bill.
Representative Eskar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I rise in support of Senate Bill 15, and I want to thank the State Affairs Committee. I haven't said that very often. I want to thank the State Affairs Committee for the work they did on making sure that we were also protecting, there you go, Representative Foote, make sure that we are also not only protecting the homeowners, but also the legitimate tenants, and there was no kind of consequence for those people. I do have a constituent story, and I won't share all of it with you, but this isn't just about our deployed military. This is also about senior citizens. As a woman in Pueblo who owned a second home that she rented, unbeknownst to her, her tenant decided that they were leaving town but let their friend move in. And their friend moved in with 3 pit bulls and never once paid rent and changed the lock, and destroyed the entire inside of the home, and she had no recourse. She contacted me. You may have seen her. She was on the local television station that has been following this bill, and that's my constituent. This is happening more often than we know and more often than we think, so I want to thank the sponsors for bringing this bill forward, and again, thank the State Affairs Committee for making sure that this is a good bill on both sides. Thank you.
Representative Sane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in strong support of Senate Bill 15. Members, this bill brings government back to one of its core functions, and that is to protect private property rights. It protects homeowners, and then particularly if you notice the title, it protects those who are out there protecting us. So I urge a yes vote.
Representative Willett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also rise in strong support of this bill. And more importantly, I too have a constituent story that I would be remiss in not raising. You might have all seen this. It's just been in the news here the last couple of days. There's a link to it in Complete Colorado if you want to see the whole story. Amanda Epler is a homeowner in Grand Junction who went out of her way to rent at below market price a room to a homeless lady. And guess what? This is beyond belief almost. Fact is stranger than fiction. After dispute with renter, woman is barred from her own home. Indeed, she got in a dispute with this renter who quit paying rent and had her boyfriend move in. They got into a domestic dispute. Restraining orders were filed. Now the homeowner has been kicked out of her own home. The renter is still in there with her boyfriend not paying rent while the FED action is in process. For 2 years now, we've been working on this squatter problem. I'm really glad to see we're finally getting something done on this. Again, property rights are paramount to our society, and I send out my best to Ms. Epler. I don't know her, and I hope she gets back in her home soon.
Representative Sandridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I stand in strong support of this bill. I'm probably one of the few in these chambers that actually, I used to be an inner city police officer. I got many calls to squatter rights issues, squatter rights calls, and it can be pretty devastating to homeowners when they walk in and see their place trashed, see syringes, damage. The bathroom's over there, but they chose to use the floor. It can be a pretty rough scene, and it can actually be really rough on the family, on the kids when they witness this. So I think it's a great thing that we're doing, not just for the military, for property owners in general. And again, hopefully we can get a yes vote on this. Thank you.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill? Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members. Thanks for your attention, and thanks to the members of the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee. I think we have a good, in fact, I know we have a good workable bill. Members, this truly is obviously a property rights issue, property protection issue for the homeowners and property owners. Quite frankly, there's 65 stories times probably 5 or 10 in this chamber that we have constituents that have been confronted with this issue. So this goes a long, long way to solve that problem. The Colorado Association of Realtors came and strongly testified for this. The Colorado District Attorney's Council is fine with this. And we've worked very hard and diligently with everybody. And I would definitely urge an aye vote for this. It's a good vote for our constituents. It's a good vote for the property owners. And I urge an aye vote on Senate Bill 15. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 15? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 15. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 15 is adopted. Mr. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nice job today. I move the committee rise and report.
Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report.
The House will come to order. Mr. Randall, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Madam Speaker, your committee whole basic leave report has under consideration following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, makes following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1314 is amended. House Bill 1342 is amended. Passed third reading or gross place accounted for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 3, Senate Bill 15 is amended. Senate Bill 62 is amended. Senate Bill 143, Senate Bill 177, Senate Bill 178, Senate Bill 207 passed third reading or revised place accounted for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 156 laid over until April 19, 2018, retaining its place on the calendar. Senate Bill 68 laid over until February 23, 2018, retaining its place on the calendar.
Representative Gray. All right, members, you have heard the motion. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative, all right, please close the machine. With 58 yes votes, 4 no votes, and 3 excused, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. All right, announcements and introductions. I have one, which will be Representative Arndt will replace Representative Foote, and Representative Kraft-Tharp will replace Representative Gray on the Finance Committee today only. Representative Lee will replace Representative Winter on the Transportation Committee today only. Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, the calendar shows that the Joint Budget Committee is meeting upon adjournment. We're not. The Joint Budget Committee will meet at 1:30 today. Thank you.
Further announcements or introductions? Representative Benavides.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I've requested and been approved to be out on some family business on Friday. Thank you.
Yes, you'll be approved. Representative Singer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Local Government. We will see you today at 1:30. There was some misunderstanding about where we're going to meet. Same place, same time. We'll see you in House Committee Room 107 at 1:30.
All right, further announcements or introductions? Representative Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill 56 will be on the calendar tomorrow, Thursday, at 1:30, the Civil Court County Court Jurisdiction Bill. Thank you.
All right, further announcements or introductions? Representative Pedersen. Oh, or Representative McLaughlin. Whoever's closer. Representative Pedersen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Education, we are going to be laying over 1232 for next week, so we only have one bill up. Don't be late. 5 minutes upon adjournment. Straight there.
All right, Representative McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The world's largest Transportation and Energy Committee will be meeting at 1:30 today. Thank you.
Further announcements or introductions? Representative Liston.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I want to, today was a great day for all of us. I want to commend the good work that the committee did. And today is very special for me. It happens to be my daughter's birthday today. So happy birthday, Katarina. Lauren Liston, I know I may be fined, Madam Speaker. Also, we have, it's been a few days. We have some great economic news today. The Commerce Department reported yesterday that March retail sales jumped 0.6%, which is the largest increase since November. Auto sales jumped 2%, which is the most in 6 months. And yesterday, the International Monetary Fund upgraded its economic outlook for the United States for 2018. They expect our economy to grow by 2.9%, which is an increase from 2.7% and over 2.3% last year. And they expect worldwide growth to be 3.9%, the best since 2011. So isn't it great that we live in a great country with a great economy, where this good economic news is coming down to all Americans? Let's hear it for the American economy. Thank you.
Further announcements or introductions? Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I hope someday we have ability to talk about a resolution talking about a different president in the well. But my announcement really is for the Finance Committee. For those of you who are still listening, which may have expired 100 or so days ago anyway, we're going to meet in 13 minutes at 11:10 a.m. We have a really full calendar today. And I know you guys are hungry and you want some lunch, so, you know, balance all those things. We'll see you in about 13 minutes.
All right, further announcements or introductions? Representative Young.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, the announcement you've all been waiting for, the bills that will be up tomorrow morning at 7:30 in appropriations. We'll be meeting in LSBA, and the bills are House Bill 1003, House Bill 1004, House Bill 1006, House Bill 1009, House Bill 1064, House Bill 1076, House Bill 1094, House Bill 1108, House Bill 1128, House Bill 1135, House Bill 1136, House Bill 1177, House Bill 1184, House Bill 1212, House Bill 1217, House Bill 1251, House Bill 1266, House Bill 1290, House Bill 1291, House Bill 1292, House Bill 1297, House Bill 1379, and Senate Bill 200. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 7:30 LSBA. If you have a bill, and appropriations members, we'll see you at 7:30 as well. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
All right, thank you, Representative Young. Further announcements or introductions? I have one more, which is Representative Winter will replace Representative Eskar. I think this was opposite. Representative Eskar will replace Representative Winter on the Appropriations Committee on April 19th. It seemed a little opposite. All right, further announcements or introductions? Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stand in recess till 1 o'clock today.
All right, seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess until 1 p.m. today.